So after last week's exciting, intense, penultimate episode of this season, we spent a week of rampant, intense, exciting speculation. Who's gonna be the spy? Will Din Djarin die? Will Moff Gideon win and take the Darksaber? Because if he loses, it's gonna feel like a very similar repeat to season 2. So surely this is gonna be some kind of Empire Strikes Back ending. Will we get a post-credit scene? Will it feature Ahsoka? Thrawn? What will happen? Will there be a second Jedi appearance? That would be kind of, once again, similar to season 2, but maybe it will be a different Jedi. Ahsoka. Ezra. I mean, we could have got a cameo of Ezra, but no, unfortunately, none of these things that we speculated madly and crazily about all week, none of them happened. Instead, we got gifted a pretty fun action episode of television that felt like a nice, normal, standard, safe, run-of-the-mill, acceptably okay finale of television that feels mildly disappointing, not overly ambitious or creative, some exciting action sequences. I felt some emotion sometimes, but overall, I'm left with a feeling of like, From the dawn of film itself, there has been a classic phrase that we have all discussed in relation to foreshadowing and paying off said foreshadowing. And it goes like this. When you see in the first act a giant mythosaur creature, a mythical dinosaur one might say, a mythical dinosaur creature, the mythosaur, down in the ocean depths or whatever. When you see that in the first act, in the third act, you see it being ridden by the main character, or maybe that other character that's now the main character of this season, Bo-Katan, but hopefully it's the Mandalorian, Din Djarin himself and not Bo-Katan. I guess maybe both of them could ride it, or maybe even better, Grogu rides it, and they both look at Grogu and they're like, oh my god, look at your son, Grogu, ride the mythosaur. Didn't I tell you there was a mythosaur in the ocean? And Din's like, that's a big mythical dinosaur that we have called the Mythosaur because we are a clever race of people that aren't insane cult members. And that, and you see in the third act a Mythosaur smash a ship or eat a Moff Gideon and do a thing. Because, the classic phrase is, if you see a giant Mythosaur at the bottom of the ocean in Act 1, you see it do action and kill things and do stuff. But, see, that's the beauty of Star Wars. They, at one point, loved to subvert expectations. You know what film I'm talking about. I'm actually not going to say it because I don't want to enrage or delight you. It's so 50-50. But you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you subvert expectations and it's the best and simultaneously somehow the worst thing ever. So this time they have subverted the expectations or they have unsubverted the expectations. What they have done is they have they've cocked the gun, the Chekhov's Mythosaur gun, if you will, and then in the third act, instead of firing it, like what we've done since the dawn of cinema, and they just cocked it again. And they're like, this gun, the brand is called, let's call it the Mythosaur brand. This gun actually needs to be cocked twice. And it will fire at the end of season 4. Maybe. Or it just won't. Maybe it'll just sit at the bottom of the ocean opening its eyes. And it's just like, maybe next time. Maybe next time. I've now realized that that sounds negative. It sounds like I'm negative on this episode of television, that I didn't like it, that I feel like it set up things that it didn't pay off. But that is not true. That's not accurate. I thought this was just going to be a fun little bit to start off the episode. I don't know why I'm getting so angry. This episode had so much going for it. For the whole week, I, along with every single person that loves The Mandalorian, was rampantly speculating and thinking about all the crazy theories and ideas, like, was Din Djarin gonna die? Who was gonna be the spy? Like, will there be a post-credit scene with Thrawn or Ahsoka? There was so much to dive into, and None of those things happened. Not a single one of those things that we've been crazily thinking about happened at all. They forgot that they hyped up a spy. They're like, episode 7, The Spies, the episode called The Spies. They're like, there'll be 2 spies because they have claimed, as creators of this show, that like every single title of an episode has 2 different meanings. So, okay, so there'll be 2 different spies. Well, we got that one lady who was going to be in New Rangers of the Republic, or whatever that show was going to be called. You know, that cancelled show because of Cara Dune and all that stuff, which I won't get into here. You know, so her spy 1, got it. Who's spy 2? Oh, it's a mystery, because this is kind of a part 1, part 2 situation. So every single scene, there's so much layered, like extra tension, so much tension built into being who's the spy. Every time the armorer or any single Mandalorian that's taken their helmet off said anything, I'm like, oh my god, they're the spy. Like that guy walks in, he's like, everyone get on those ships and fly away. I'll get into this big ship and nothing will go wrong. And I'm like, oh my god, he's the spy. They're all gonna die. He's gonna kill them all. That's crazy. No. And then the armorer walks up at one point and she's like, I'm the armorer. I'm here. Reinforcements are here. I'm like, oh my god, she's the spy. She's gonna kill all of them. No. And then, you know, a third example. There was definitely a third example where I was like, oh my god, that character's the spy. No, there was no spy. They just forgot that they said there'd be a spy. How could you title an episode The Spies with an S, which means plural? Just like, I'm not an English major or anything. I mean, I did pretty well. I got an A+, you know. Well, I either got an A- or an A+. It doesn't matter. I got an A of some type in year 12, which is, that's crazy. I feel like I cheated. I must have cheated. No, I can't have cheated. I'm not a cheater because I get so scared that someone would find me out. Unrelated, I'm just saying that, like, you know, spies, it's got an S, plural, so, you know, multiple spies. You can't title a whole episode that has 45 minutes of things going on and the first minute and a half is like a spy that we already know is a spy. It's like not even a confirmation that she is a spy. We know she's going to be a spy. Or maybe that was the confirmation. It doesn't matter. All I'm saying is I am incredibly disappointed that there was no spy because all the tension of all the action, which I thought was really nicely shot, really nicely filmed, all the action was great. I love seeing Boba Fett all over the place. Lots of jetpacks just jetpacking all over the place. All like the camera work where like, you know, like the CGI, like fake camera work, all the camera work with like the ships and all that stuff. All the action was really, really exciting. Some of the hand-to-hand action on the ground, not as exciting. But generally speaking, all of the action, I was so tense because of the spies. But there's no spies, so I don't. It was all fake tension, which I won't have that tension next time. But luckily, there was tension with Din Djarin because maybe he would die. Except now I think about it, now I'm going back to actually how I felt in the episode. No, because every scene with Din Djarin, there was no tension because Baby Yoda was there. And I love Baby Yoda. Do not get me wrong. I love Baby Yoda. But with Baby Yoda, is it just me or is it too funny to have like actual tension and stakes? Like he's running around being like, boobity boobity, I'm Baby Yoda. And he's like, foot in the force push, he's running on those like rails at the top. And they're all like, the placenta guards are running around, those red guard guys. And they're all like, get back here, Baby Yoda. And it's like, what is this, Looney Tunes? What is this, Home Alone? What is this, The Mandalorian, I guess? Now it's a farcical G-rated Disney Plus comedy. Although that was my favorite bit because I laughed. I love Baby Yoda. He's just like, but there's no stakes. There's no emotional, like, gritty, dirty stakes the way I want them to feel. Like, I want to feel something in my life. It just kind of, like, takes away a lot of the serious. Like, Bo-Katan's got a Darksaber. Moff Gideon's there. He's like, I will kill you. Kneel before me. Ha, ha, ha. And then, like, Baby Yoda's like, and they're, like, chasing him. And I'm loving it, and I'm laughing, and I'm having fun. But, like, the seriousness of the scene, like, feels, like, kind of non-existent. Feels like it just, like, disappears once Baby Yoda's, like, just waddling around. But I do love it. Like, I love that bit where he's, like, force pushing Moff Gideon. And he's force pushing all the things and doing his force stuff. Like, the bit where the fire engulfs everything. And he's got the force shield around them. And they're all like, oh, my God, thank God Baby Yoda's here to do his Baby Yoda thingy. Like, I loved all that. It was so exciting and cool. But there's just, like, a weird disconnect where, like, suddenly, like, watching a scene with him, I'm like, oh, there's no tension. They'll never be able to kill Baby Yoda because baby, and why would you? Because he's the best character ever. But I don't know if it was this episode in particular, the way it was framed, where he's like running on the rooftop situation thingy or whatever was going on. But as soon as he got out of the IG-12 or whatever things, and they were like dismantling it, and I'm like, get rid of that. It was fun for a bit where it's like, yes, no, yes. Get rid of that though. I want to see him doing his force and all that stuff. But just the way he waddles, the way he moves, like it's funny and awesome. But I just think maybe just for like a finale, I don't know, like I remember in season 1 where he pushes the fire away, then he faints, like that felt like it had more weight and emotion. I was like, oh, I was so shocked at what he could do, the power. But still, he's kind of vulnerable. And I feel like season 2 had that as well. But in this episode, it just felt a little bit farcical, a little bit silly, a little bit hilarious and dumb. I don't know. It's like, I don't know, it's like a minor nitpick because I love Baby Yoda, he's awesome, but it's like it takes away from the gravity of the situation. So I'm like, I don't know how you balance that, because I love the idea of like Bo-Katan's like, I will take Moff Gideon, you go save your son, and he's like, I will, and you're like, yes, save your son, Mando, and it's like, ooh, emotion finally, actually. But then he gets in the room, and Baby Yoda's like, I don't need your help, I have plot armor. I'm not saying that cameos and post-credit scenes make a show or make me, excited and end the season. That's not what I want. But what I want is something emotional, satisfying. Like Luke taking Grogu was the end of a 2-season arc. And yes, this episode has Moff Gideon dying, maybe, but like, I don't know, fire consumed him and he went like, and fire consumed and killed him. But I am just such a skeptical watcher that something like that doesn't make me go like, well, he's gone for good. Because like, they could just make an excuse and bring him back. I mean, Palpatine, Darth Maul, a third example. Star Wars loves to not kill people, particularly in the TV shows, and this episode itself does actually, speaking of people coming back to life and cameos, who cares about Thrawn, Ahsoka, Luke, boo all those characters? We got in this episode maybe the most exciting 2 cameos you could possibly imagine. One, IG-11 is back. Everybody's 14th to 37th favorite droid in Star Wars, he's back, and he's played by none other than Taika Waititi, everybody's favorite director. Nobody is out of favor with Taika Waititi right now. We all love him and want to hear him voice droids in Star Wars. That's much better than, say, a satisfying conclusion or good writing and storytelling. Just bring him back for no reason, because we all love when a droid explodes and melts and they're just like, well, it doesn't matter, he can come back to life. Didn't you see Rise of Skywalker? Cloning or whatever. People just don't die. Shut up. Why are you angry? Well, I'm not angry. I'm just like, okay, so, Thrawn, Ahsoka, Luke Skywalker, I don't need these things. But thank God we did get a cameo with Taika Waititi, because otherwise I wouldn't have been satiated with my cameo expectations and needs. And also Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni has another cameo as the guy that just sits in that bar wearing that totally amazing and not ridiculous hat that he just loves to wear cowboy hats. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's kind of different if you see someone like Josh Brolin wear a cowboy hat, or a Harrison Ford wear a cowboy hat, to a Dave Filoni wear a cowboy hat. I'm not trying to hat shame anybody. Wait, no, maybe I am. So let's discuss the fact that people thought Din Djarin was going to die, which obviously didn't happen. And if I'm being honest, throughout the entire episode, despite there being a bunch of Platorian, whatever they're called, the Red Guards, no matter how many red stormtroopers there were with their purple lightsaber, totally not lightsaber thingies, laser beam whatevers, who cares? No matter how kind of aggressively they hit him, and no matter how much it looked like he couldn't possibly survive, not for a single second in this episode did I feel the tension that I felt at the end of last episode when Moff Gideon had him in front of like the wall, and I went, oh wow, this is really a situation where they could kill him. I'm not sure if it's just the fact that I suddenly realized there's no way they'll kill Mando or Baby Yoda, because that's insane and we just want to see them doing adventures forever. But there was just something about like kind of the tone and the feeling of the episode. Like there was no, like, yeah, there were kind of stakes, but a lot of the stakes were kind of things that I was putting onto the episode. Like every time any of the Mandalorians that had a name, not that I know any of their names except for the Armorer, because she's the Armorer, but I don't even know, did she have an actual name? Who cares? But every time any of them that have had a face or said any dialogue did anything, I was like, oh my God, they're the spy. Now they're going to reveal that they're the spy. And they never did, because there was no spy. Like, all the tension I put onto this episode was who was going to be the spy and who was going to betray them and when was that going to be that big moment, that big heartbreaking moment, that devastating moment that was going to hit us and like make this a Empire Strikes Back finale. Because if this is a finale where they win, that's the same as season 1, season 2, and season 3. In season 2 specifically, they beat Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon's like peeing his pants, and he's like, "Oh no, Luke Skywalker!" Blah! And he loses. So the next time he has a big battle, he wins, and it should have been an Empire Strikes Back win. And then in season 4, you kill him. Maybe do a shock twist, you know, like Endgame style. Kill him in like episode 3 or something. Like do a thing quickly, and you know, and have Mando chop his head off, and he's like, "This time I went for the head," or whatever. You know, don't steal Endgame's line, obviously, but do a thing like that. Don't just have him lose in the next finale, because now, like, season 2 and 3 feel like really similar, where they fight Moff Gideon, and they beat him quite easily. And you're like, huh, the big bad villain got beaten really easily, like, and there were some amazing, exciting ideas with Moff Gideon, like he's got all the clones, and he's making them clone force sensitive, and that's why he wants to do the clones, because he's going to give them more force powers, and it makes sense from all the stuff with Baby Yoda from season 1, and all this stuff, it's all connected, and that's a really cool, exciting idea, but then in execution and delivery, what we get is a really generic scene where they walk through and they're like, "Ooh, spooky, he's got his own clones," but like a really generic, horrible, like terrible, you know, straight to Netflix horror film where like moments where it goes up to the thing. And I remember thinking, oh, now it's on his face. Imagine if he opened his eyes and went, "Boo!" You know, like a ghost in a, you know, terrible to Netflix, straight to Netflix horror movie. And he does. He's like, "Ah!" It's like, and it's even worse because Baby Yoda's like, "Oh!" And he like freaks out. It's like, I laughed out loud. I was like, "Ha ha ha ha." So Moff Gideon feels wasted and underdeveloped and kind of underutilized. That actor Gus, well, not Gus, what's his name? It doesn't matter. You know, Gus from Breaking Bad, he's so exceptional. It just kind of feels like you've wasted him. Like you put him in these last 2 episodes. It really just feels like one big episode or part 1, part 2, kind of big finale. But I don't feel like any of the things I want to see happen. And there's so much I feel like they could have utilized and they could have done. Like, I really liked the idea that the armorer would be a spy, because she's got the spiky things, and he's got the spiky things, like Darth Maul, which you could, like, tie that all into Darth Maul when he was on Mandalore from the Clone Wars, and, like, tie that all into the Death Watch, and there was just so much where I'm like, oh, I cannot wait for all this to be revealed, all the reveals and revelations and moments and things. And then he's just like, "I was gonna have clones and they were gonna be good, but you ruined it." And he puts his helmet on and then they fight. And the fight's like, it's good, but it's not so amazing and so exciting. Like, if the fighting and action in this episode was so amazing that I was like, I don't care, I don't need story, I don't need character development, I don't need these big emotional things, character-wise and story-wise, how good was the action? It was sensational. And it was pretty good. And visually, it was really interesting and really exciting. Some of like the starship stuff was really, really cool. I liked the camera work and where they're placing the camera in a lot of that. But the actual ground-to-ground fighting came across like a little clunky, a little slow at times. Like the Mando bit where they're opening the red like shield gates and he slowly moves through. That was really exciting and interesting. But the rest of it felt like they're just kind of there on a big green screen. And it didn't really kind of pack the emotional punch that, say, chunky Boba Fett from last episode had when he was all alone, he was sacrificing himself. Like, that had a lot of emotional weight. Whereas this one, it just had, I don't know, it just kind of felt like there was a lot of Boba Fett's flying about. And, like, Bo-Katan's got the Darksaber and she's, like, slashing and stabbing and the armor's all like, blah. And everything's happening. I'm like, it looks pretty visually cool. But it left me feeling quite emotionally, like, flat. The only moment that really hit me emotionally was when Din Djarin adopted Baby Yoda. And they're like, "You're a Din Grogu now." Apparently Din is the name they share. I guess it's Din his last name? I don't know. I don't really care. It just kind of made me laugh because they're just like, "Your name is Din Grogu." And I'm like, you misspoke. His name's Baby Yoda, you idiot. Why does everyone keep missaying the words Baby Yoda? It's those stupid idiots. But I did really like that. Like, just on an emotional level, just love them, like, fully adopting him. Even though I was like, is he not already adopted him? As his foundling. Isn't that adoption in the Mandalorian culture? Whatever, I mean, who cares? But it was just a nice kind of, you know, they're there together, and there was a nice moment of them being on their farm at the end of the episode, which, you know, it warmed my heart. as I sat there in anticipation for the Thrawn cameo, we didn't get. I'm kidding. That didn't really annoy me. I mean, I was like shocked. Like the Disney Plus thing went small, like showing that there was no more footage during the credits. I literally went, what? Like, we're so conditioned due to Marvel and everyone stealing Marvel things. Like, I don't know, didn't season 2 have like a Boba Fett like tease, which I like paused and didn't watch it because I was so emotionally raw and like destroyed from that Luke Skywalker stealing Baby Yoda away. I was like, oh no, oh, so much. I paused it and I never watched that and I saw it online. Whereas this, I'm sitting there waiting. And that shows you that the episode itself didn't have that emotional punch that you want from the end of a season. And despite the fact when all the Mandalorians are there and they're like, it's Mandalore, rah! All for Mandalore. And you're like, yeah, well, I can see the season arc of they've reclaimed Mandalore. But it feels a bit easy as well, where it's like, yeah, they reclaimed Mandalore from like one dude who had like 3 ships and this little hangar. I don't know, it just feels like if someone came to Earth and they like came to like my town, my little town, and they're like, we've taken over this town. Guess Earth's ours. And you're like, not really. I mean, there's like, how big is Mandalore? Is Mandalore like a little tiny planet? Little tiny planet? But that's not really this thing's problem. That's kind of all sci-fi, where they land on a planet and they're like, this is the whole planet. This very small city. Like Tatooine. Is Tatooine just Mos Eisley and those other 3 Moss places? It's just, that's a whole lot of nothing in desert. That's all I'm saying. I am now realizing, as I am talking on and on and on and on and on, this is so negative. I didn't hate this episode. I had fun watching the episode. I was like, cool, Boba Fett's Boba Fetting all over the place. But yeah, none of it landed. None of it felt like it, I don't know, maybe my expectations were just too high. But like that bit where he like grabs the Darksaber, he's like, your weapon is destroyed. Oh, whatever he said. You know, I'm paraphrasing or whatever. And he's like, crush! And he crushes the Darksaber. I wasn't like, oh, no! You know, like when Thor, like Hela gets Thor's hammer and she's like, you don't need this hammer anymore because you suck and I'm awesome. And she crushes it. And you're like, gut-wrenching, you're devastated. And you're like, no! Thor's hammer! But Thor is nothing without his hammer. What? And you love his hammer. You love how the hammer flies about and all the stuff. All the hammer stuff. And it's devastating. It's heartbreaking. And you don't understand how he's going to move on without it. I feel like maybe they thought that's what you'd get from the Darksaber. But all I thought was, oh, cool. No more lightsaber stuff? That sucks. Why'd you do that? And I wasn't like emotionally destroyed for the character or the people around. Like no one went, oh, the Darksaber, no! And I didn't care about Bo-Katan and the Darksaber. I just wanted to see cool lightsaber stuff, but we don't have that, so we got cool Darksaber stuff. But we didn't even really get that much cool Darksaber stuff, so I'm like, nah, I don't know. I guess that sucks, whatever. I don't know, the whole episode just had that kind of feeling, where it's like, Moff Gideon died! But did he? I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, was there another facility with clones? Was he bluffing about how sad he was about the clones? Like, there's just, I don't know, nothing felt like it had emotional conclusion weight that you kind of want a finale to have. Like, none of it reminded me of the way I felt when Luke was like, that's my Baby Yoda now, Mando, and I was devastated. I was like, are we going to get a whole season without Baby Yoda and Mando? I'll never survive! Ironically, that's all I wanted from this season, is just to have some... I just feel like they have not nailed this season the way I feel like season 1 and 2 felt like. At the end, I was like, oh, it's all come to, like, yeah, that's, what a mixed feelings of an episode. I just feel like once, like, my emotions have, like, subsided, I'm, like, I'll forget this season. Whereas I felt like I was thinking about that finale with Luke and the robots and just everything about it for so long. Like, for 2 years until this season started. And then this season started, I'm like, I feel like something's missing. Loved episode 2, 3, I know, controversial, loved 3. Loved 2, 3, and 7. The rest feel like, oh, yeah, ugh. Yeah, I don't know. Do love that Baby Yoda and Mando were in a house together, like a little farmyard. And he's like, look, I got the frog. Remember from that scene you loved with Luke? Frogs. I love frogs. The Force. And they did like a little zoom into the circle. And they held on that for some insane psycho reason, which I loved, but it was so weird. And then... And then you're sitting there being like, post-credit scene! I'm kidding. I'm not that annoyed about the post-credits. I just want to see what his stupid blue face looks like. I just want to see what his blue face looks like. I need to be like, you know, like, I need to prepare myself for a whole show of a man with blue face. Like, is it going to be Cad Bane's situation where it's not dark enough blue? Like, am I going to have that issue where I'm like, oh, I love Cad Bane, but it's very pale blue Cad Bane. I mean, it could have been darker. Why is his hat so small? Why isn't it a big hat? Why is Dave Filoni's hat in The Mandalorian bigger than Cad Bane's hat? I mean, why? Why? You know what? I have one positive in this episode that I thought was spectacularly positive. There is a moment where the big ship and the guy who's got the helmet, but sometimes he takes the helmet off and he's like, I've also got a face. Moderately charming face character man. Let's call him Mandalorian 7. Mandalorian 7 takes off his helmet. He's like, I'm not the spy. I'm going to crash the ship and I'm going to kill myself and do a self-sacrifice and destroy the base. And I'm like, that's cool. Isn't there like an autopilot button though? Like, I don't know, there's so many scenes like this where I'm like, do you need to die for this to happen? Why in the far-flung future, the long time ago, is there not like a, I don't know, like an autopilot button? Isn't there like a, I'm going to self-sacrifice, but also there's a little ship I can get out of. And he actually like shoots the window and flies out. And he Boba Fett's away with a jetpack. And I'm like, oh, he didn't self-sacrifice. He used his brain and didn't kill himself for no reason. Or, you know, as I guess we should refer to it in the Star Wars universe, Saw Gerrera ourselves. He didn't Saw Gerrera himself for no reason. He lived. I can't believe it. Maybe he's still the spy. That's why he wanted to live. No, there's no spy. They just called the episode The Spies. For no reason. What about Skinny Pete from Breaking Bad and all those guys who were on Mandalore that whole time, but they didn't notice that Moff Gideon had set up base for months? Surely they were going to be the spies. There were so many points where I'm like, ooh, they're showing them these gardens, these beautiful gardens, but this is going to be like that scene of Mice and Men where it's like, look at the beautiful lake, Lenny or Kenny or Jenny or whatever your name is. Look at the lake, other character of Mice and Men, and then he shoots him in the back of the head. And it's like, oh, he showed him a beautiful thing, so that was the last thing he saw before he died. Sorry, spoilers for Mice of Men. But I thought they were gonna do that! And then they didn't. They're just like, look at how beautiful the grass is, Bo-Katan. She's like, I've never seen flowers or something. And I'm like, oh, wow. Mandala's such a piece of shit. Why do you even want to live here? There's so many planets. I don't know. This is the end. Or it's not, depending on how I cut it together. I don't know. This has been very rambly. Thanks for watching.